All right. Well, thanks for being here. This is the Central Appalachia Living Traditions, Folk and Traditional Arts Experiences Grants informational webinar. And we'll be recording this up to the question and answer section. That part won't be recorded. And then we'll post it on the website for reference after the fact. My name is Emily Hilliard, and I'm the Program Director for Folk and Traditional Arts at Mid-Atlantic Arts. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. My colleague, Sarah Tunet, is also here today, and she'll be monitoring the Q&A and helping with any technical difficulties. Sarah, would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Tunet, she, her pronouns. I'm the program specialist with Mid-Atlantic Arts, and I am here if you have any technical questions.
Great. So, before we get started, I wanted to share a little bit about Mid-Atlantic Arts for those of you who might not know much about us. Mid-Atlantic Arts is one of 6 regional arts organizations in the United States. And our member states and territories include Delaware, DC, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, the US Virgin Islands, Virginia, and West Virginia. And to give you some idea of who we are within the National Arts Service Organization ecosystem, there are local arts agencies, state arts agencies, regional arts organizations like ourselves, and the National Endowment for the Arts. Mid-Atlantic distinguishes itself through its work in international cultural exchange, performing arts touring, its knowledge and presence in the jazz field, and its support of folk and traditional arts. So let's get started. We'll have a Q&A period at the end of today's webinar, so we'll answer all of your questions then. If you'd like to ask a question, you can simply type it into the Q&A box. Access through the Q&A icon at the bottom of your screen. And we'll work down the list and try to answer all the questions at the end. So what is Central Appalachia Living Traditions? We call it CULT, the acronym. It's a multi-year program designed to promote the understanding and recognition of folk arts and culture in Central Appalachia through a 3-part program that invests in folk arts communities while seeding new folk and traditional arts experiences and honoring under-recognized practitioners of Central Appalachian traditions across the region. And this initiative was developed in response to Mid-Atlantic Central Appalachian Folk and Traditional Arts Research and Survey Project, or CAFTA, which was completed in 2022. And you can read more about that on our website at midatlanticarts.org. And Sarah just put that link to our website, specifically the Folk and Traditional Arts Experiences grants in the chat. So we partner with the area's 3 state folklife programs, the Ohio Arts Council, West Virginia Folklife Program, and the Virginia Folklife Program to connect CULT with state-based folklife initiatives and promote the sharing of knowledge and resources across the region. So CULT serves the counties of Ohio, Virginia, and West Virginia that are designated as Appalachian by the Appalachian Regional Commission, or the ARC. And you can find a full list of those counties on our website. So what are the folk and traditional arts? Oh, I'm sorry, I missed a slide here. What are the CULT Folk and Traditional Arts Experiences grants? First of all, the CULT Folk and Traditional Arts Experiences grants, it's a new program, and it funds public-facing projects and events in ARC counties of Ohio, Virginia, and West Virginia that bring community members together around folk and traditional arts practice and cultural knowledge. So today we'll cover all the aspects of the new grant program, an overview of the folk and traditional arts, grant information and eligibility, grant award limitations, the review criteria, the application and review process, and project timeline. So now, what are the folk and traditional arts? This grant program specifically funds folk and traditional arts projects. And to take a step back, what are the folk and traditional arts? So we think of folk and traditional arts as art and creative practices that are based in and reflective of the knowledge, practices, and creativity of cultural communities. As the NEA explains, those community members may share a common ethnic heritage, cultural mores, language, religion, occupation, or geographic region. These vital and constantly reinvigorated artistic traditions are shaped by values and standards of excellence that are passed from generation to generation, most often within family and community through demonstration, conversation, and practice. Folk and traditional arts include craft, material culture, foodways, dance, music, storytelling, and more. And these creative practices are rooted in community and or place. So a little more about the grants. For this particular program, nonprofit organizations and folk and traditional artists and practitioners in Appalachian counties of Ohio, Virginia, and West Virginia are eligible to apply for grant programs or for grant amounts from $1,000 to $10,000. No match is required, and the majority of project activities must take place within the designated counties. Funded projects will encourage broad public awareness, understanding, and appreciation of living traditions, and or grow and disseminate artistic skill and cultural knowledge within the community. Because this program intends to diversify and expand the types of folk arts and cultural activities available in communities throughout the region, applications must be for new projects or projects that expand and or diversify existing programming. So let's dig into that a little bit. What do we consider a new project or a project that expands existing programming? So new projects constitute initiatives that will first launch within the project period of this grant, which is January 1st of 2023 to December 31st of 2023. Projects that expand or diversify existing programming could be a new component of an existing program, such as a new showcase at an ongoing festival, a new episode series of an existing podcast, or a documentation project within an existing archival collection. Eligible project activities include, but are not limited to, hands-on learning experiences, workshops where traditional artistic practices are taught or demonstrated to the public or a group of peer practitioners, public art projects, exhibitions of folk and traditional art, a performance project or series, a film or video or podcast, or an archival collection or fieldwork with a significant public-facing component. That means that any proposed documentation work, such as fieldwork or oral history interviews, must be tied to a public-facing component, such as a digital archival collection that will be accessible online and shared with the documented community, a public exhibit created from materials generated during fieldwork, a podcast created from audio interviews generated through oral history interviews, a performance series of artist practitioners documented in the collection, or otherwise. So we really encourage any documentation project to be conducted by or in collaboration with the documented community at every step of the process, from project design to the final product. If an archival collection is to be compiled from already existing materials, those materials should be made accessible to the public and home community through open online access, repatriation of materials, and or direct outreach. Priority will be given to projects that engage multi-generational participants, as well as projects occurring in communities identified as under-resourced or marginalized including the most geographically remote counties in the region. So who is eligible for these grants? An organization or artist must be located in ARC designated counties of Ohio, Virginia, or West Virginia, designated or within Native nations that share this geography. In some cases, organizations and artists or practitioners that are located adjacent to, but primarily serve communities in the designated counties will be considered as long as the proposed project serves communities in the designated counties and meets all other grant criteria. You must be a 501c3 nonprofit organization, a unit of state or local government, a federally recognized Indian tribal government, or an individual folk and traditional artist or practitioner. Units of state or local government must provide a document, an official letterhead to confirm status as a government entity. And individual artists or practitioners must complete a W-9 and will be issued an IRS 1099 form for their grant. And you must be in good standing with Mid-Atlantic Arts with no overdue or outstanding required reports or grant documents. So any other grant award limitations? Funding awarded by Mid-Atlantic Arts is restricted to the specific direct costs of the project and may not be used for indirect costs. Direct costs are specified in the budget section of the application, which you can find on our website, and may include artist fees, program staff salary, marketing and promotional expenses, supplies and equipment rental or purchases, printing or publishing costs, artist or cultural worker travel or lodging expenses, and expenses related to public health measures for in-person engagements. Projects that have received funding from Mid-Atlantic Arts for the same project in this fiscal year are ineligible. So you could be an organization that has a different project that was funded by Mid-Atlantic Arts, and that would be okay. But the specific project cannot have received funding from Mid-Atlantic for the same project in this fiscal year. Folk and traditional arts experiences grants do not require a match, like I said. So how will the applications be reviewed? So this is the project criteria. Project viability is weighted at 40%. And I'm gonna read the specific ways we define that, but you can follow along in the guidelines document, which is available on our website through that link that Sarah put in the chat. So project viability includes, as applicable, the value and appropriateness of the project to the folk and traditional arts discipline, the organization's mission or the artist or practitioner's background, the artists or practitioners involved, the audience, community, and or the constituency. The quality of artists or practitioners involved, and artistic quality can be defined by the community of practice itself, audiences, outside recognition, or some combination of the three. The ability to carry out the project based on such factors as the appropriateness of the budget, the quality and clarity of the project activities and goals, the resources and or the partners involved, and the qualifications of the project's personnel. Evidence of direct appropriate compensation to artists, practitioners, and or cultural workers, and the appropriateness of proposed evaluation measurements. Community impact is weighted at 30% and includes, as applicable, the capacity for the project to encourage broad public awareness, understanding and appreciation of living traditions, and or grow and disseminate artistic skill and cultural knowledge within the community. The ability for the project to diversify and expand the types of folk arts and cultural activities available in communities throughout the region. And the plan for the project to engage multi-generational participants. And promotion of equity, diversity, access, and inclusion is weighted at 30% and includes, as applicable, the extent to which the project activities occur in communities identified as under-resourced or marginalized due to geography, race and ethnicity, socioeconomics, sexual orientation, or disability. considerations for project accessibility accommodations, engagement with and support of underrepresented or underserved artists, practitioners, traditions, or constituents, and that the project encourages diversity and promotes inclusion. A diverse group of folk and traditional art specialists, including folklorists, cultural workers, artists and practitioners, and culture bearers in Central Appalachia will serve as panelists and provide program feedback informed by their role in the application review. And I will share more about what happens to your application after you submit it in a subsequent slide. So what is the grant award timeline? Applications opened on August 15th of this year and are due September 30th. Applicants will be notified of grant award approval by December 22nd, 2022, and project activities will take place from January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2023. So how to apply? The required application materials include applicant information, project details and narrative, project personnel or organizational bios, project budget, and work samples. And you can see a sample application on our website through that link that Sarah put in the chat. Work samples are a critical part of your application and are considered carefully during the panelist review. Samples should demonstrate quality of artistic content and or technical ability as applicable. And they should be recent, concise, of high quality, and as relevant to the project as possible. Panelist review of work samples is limited to no more than 20 minutes per application, so make sure to be selective in what you choose to submit. We highly recommend limiting your selections to 3 to 4 substantive work samples relevant to the project. You can submit audio, video, image, or document work samples. Video and audio must be submitted through a URL, and image and document can be uploaded directly or submitted through a URL. For audio and video samples, please submit no more than 3 per application. Individual samples should not exceed 5 minutes. If a clip exceeds 5 minutes, make sure to indicate which 5-minute portion reviewers should view. And for image work samples, please submit no more than 10 images per application. For document work samples, please submit no more than 4 documents per application. You can access our online application at midatlanticarts.smartsimple.com and view a sample application on our website. Remember that applications are due September 30th, 2022. You can also find the guidelines document and an FAQ at that same link. So some application tips. Start with the program guidelines and FAQ and make sure to read through all application instructions thoroughly. This last point here, reviewing the review criteria, cannot be stressed enough. The review criteria listed in the program guidelines are used by panelists to evaluate your application. The better your application meets the application review criteria, which we went over and are detailed in the guidelines document, the more likely it is your application will be funded. Other tips, make sure your work samples are of as high as quality as possible. They should be recent, concise, and relevant to the project. And this is a big one, don't wait until the last minute. You'll be able to get your questions answered if you plan ahead. So that way, if you run into any questions about your application or technical issues with Smart Simple, we'll be able to address them before the application deadline. So what happens after you submit an application? Staff reviews your application for eligibility issues, and you will be contacted if we have any questions. Applications are sent to panelists who evaluate applications against program criteria. Panelists make recommendations that are sent to the Mid-Atlantic Arts Board of Directors for final approval. And dates applicants are notified of grant status are at the end of the guidelines. You will be notified, like I said, by December 22nd of this year. I really appreciate everyone being here today. Now we can move to your questions. You can type questions in the Q&A feature of Zoom. And it's 11:24, so we have plenty of time to answer the questions. While folks are typing their questions, I also want to encourage you to sign up for the Mid-Atlantic Arts newsletter or midatlanticarts.org if you aren't already receiving emails from us already. You can also specifically sign up for CULT notifications on the CULT page on our website. When you sign up for the newsletter online, you will receive targeted emails for grant opportunities and reminders about upcoming program deadlines. We don't automatically add you to the general Mid-Atlantic Arts mailing list for signing up for this webinar, so please make sure to sign up if you'd like to receive updates. When you visit the website, please just click on the upper right-hand corner where it says sign up for newsletter. I also encourage you to follow Central Appalachia Living Traditions or CULT on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can stay up to date on program information and highlights. All right, now we can move to questions. And I'll stop the recording before we do that.